Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to every nook and cranny receiving our signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter here in Houston, Texas. That be Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana. And of course, we cannot forget the rest of the world. And yes, that is the rest of the world. We have people in England, people in Barcelona, Spain, people all over that chime in quite often. And in fact, people that support this station, not only here in the United States, but from abroad. Folks, you are in good company. You are in good company. Sorry, guys, we weren't able to come live for the last 3 days. We had some very, very technical issues that had to be taken care of. Do remember that this is a station that's supported entirely by you and that we work on meager budgets to make sure we can get this vast mass of information to you. So first of all, before we even get started, thank you. And to all the folks who work wholeheartedly to make sure all our nooks and crannies were all connected. And that goes from Jack Van Bever to Howard Reynolds to Bill Crozier and many others who went above and beyond to make sure that this station remains on air, that this strong little station remain on air. Anyhow, before I get started with the program, we got to get that word from the one and only Jack Van Bever. Jack, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, Egberto. How are you this morning?
We are doing great. I'm superbly happy that we're back live, that you guys got all those machinations working back in the studio, connected to the antenna and all that great thing. So before you even get started, thank you, and to all the marvelous engineers out there at KPFT that made sure things continue to happen, even in a debilitated technical state.
Yeah, wires break sometime. They come disconnected. They get corrupted. They do weird things. So anyway, this morning I was thinking about the oligarchs, a little piece you did this weekend. We must simply find a way to stop the oligarchs from forcing their will and control over the people. They will throw gobs and gobs of money at Trump because he will cut their taxes even more. He will deregulate their markets even more, meaning the poor and the middle classes will finance a future of war and conquest for the oligarchs.
Look, it could not have been said any better. That wasn't going to be my topic to start with or today, but Jack, you have a way of tickling me. So I want to say something about the oligarchs. A lot of people think that it is a foregone conclusion that, there's a lot of money in politics because the Supreme Court updated Citizens United, or in effect, allowed Citizens United to go through. In other words, money is speech, corporations or people. In other words, not the people of the corporation, but a corporation is in fact an independent entity that has many of the rights of individual human beings. And in fact, if you study some of these rights, it has rights that supersedes the average American human being. That's what our Supreme Court has done for us. That is what many in power have done. We have a tendency to believe that these are things that are divine. These are things that's just how it is, and that's how it works. I've been talking about the good ones. When I say the good ones, I mean the people who want what's best for you. Will be a landslide in November. And one of the reasons I say that is not out of wishful thinking. It's not out of naivete. It is out of expectations that the people in America will perform. When I came to this country back in 1989, America was on the progressive ascent. I never, ever forgot. And I meant 1979, not 89, 1979. I never forgot that, all the changes that were continuously being made exponentially in nature, and realizing what was being done. By the way, in 79, I didn't understand as a very young kid then, I didn't understand exactly the dynamics that was occurring in America to dumbify America then. America was a bastion on that hill. Coming from Panama, I remember, and I spoke about this in my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. My grandfather had moved to New York earlier on, and we were in Panama, and I remember my grandfather coming to Panama one time and coming home, and come to the house, and I picked up his shoes, and I looked at his shoes, the sole of his shoes, and I said, imagine these shoes were walking in New York. That is a reverence that we had of the United States. Not that we thought the United States was the perfect country. Not that we thought the United States didn't have all these bad things that occurred. Not that we didn't know the United States at one time had slavery for people who looked like many of us, and right there sitting in Panama, we understood that. But we also understood that there was a Kennedy. We also understood there was an Eisenhower. We also understood there was a Carter. We also understood that there were people saying, let's make this country better. Let's make this country what its document assumed or told other people that it was going to be. Let's make this country the propaganda that we hear about America in Panama, Latin America, Southeast Asia, Africa, and everywhere else. Let's make it a reality. And these were leaders making it a reality. These progressives out there that were telling Americans, no, you can make it. You are intelligent. Telling America, no, you have worth. You have worth, and you should get the worth out of your works. All those folks were being taught that. Then came the Reagan Revolution under the auspices, the continued auspices of the growth of the Powell memo. That memo that said, oh my God, Americans are getting too smart. Oh my God, Americans are asking for too much. Oh my God, we have to keep this aristocracy that's been covered, that's been in a facade for a long time. This aristocracy known as the corporation, known as the capital markets, known as all that needs to dominate. And then the changes started to come. They enhanced this thing called supply side economics. They enhanced the manipulations of people's minds. They enhanced many of us believing that supporting things that materially affect us will actually, or was actually, the right thing to do. And then they taught us to maintain the hate that was being mitigated from the past. As we were coming up with the progressive values back in the 60s, growing into the 70s, where we started to look at each other with less disdain, when we continued to look at each other's really as we should, as one's brothers, one's sister, one's friend, all of us in a multicultural society that is loving and admitting and being for everybody. we suddenly saw that as a threat. We suddenly saw that as a threat to an economic system that doesn't have a place for all of us, but instead the greed of a few. When Gordon Gekko in the mythical Wall Street movie said, greed is good. Greed is good. What they forgot to say is greed is good for the particular economic system that we were in, and that most people are not greedy. Had most people been greedy, those who control our economy today, who most of them don't have the work or worth to have the money, but instead have manipulated an economic system to get unwarranted gains. I wish we could point and make people understand that the rich that they think are worthy of are so much not. I wish they realize that when they look in the mirror, they were looking at the real magnets of this economy. I wish that when they looked in the mirror, they actually saw somebody of worth who did the real work in America. I wish everyone that's out there on the road right now heading to work, everyone that you see standing at the bus stop, as you have people in our oligarchy talk about people not working hard enough, talking about the slouches on the streets. I wish people realize that there are very few slouches in the streets, and that most of the slouches in our economy are the ones you find in the boardroom, the ones that take advantage of us all. I wish we could have enough power over these airs, over the air, over the internet and all, to let people realize those who are really taking advantage of them, to not live in the fantasy that somehow that someone could actually be a billionaire, that somebody is worth $1 billion, that somebody created something worth $1 billion, when everybody ever created in this country, in this world, is the composite knowledge, the collective knowledge of us all, and just us having an economic system who is able for a few to take advantage of the collective intellect, collective resources, collective everything of us all. I wish, and one of my calls to duty is to let people realize that no, it is us. It is not the few. It is us who make things happen. It is us, we the people, who really make it. Anytime you hear somebody trying to down your government, remember, your government is you, we the people. When they say government doesn't do anything right, remember that's a slight against you. You have the ability to make government. You have the ability to change government. You just have to do so collectively. We have to remember we are our brother's keeper. We have to remember we are our sister's keeper. We have to remember we are all in this together. All right. That's my rant of the morning that Jack brought on. Jack, I tell you what, you always have a tendency to raise those sort of feelings in me just by the tonality of what you talk about, my brother.
Thank you.
Anyway, look, folks, we got to get busy here. Title of the show today is, whoops, I'm on the wrong page, but I've just got to the new page. The title of the show is Pull Biden Over the Finish Line and Then Organize. Ali Velshi on Dismantling Trumpism. Massacre Again. Khanna says progressives must pull Biden over the finish line and then organize. Ali Velshi points out it is imperative to dismantle Trumpism. And folks, another gun massacre, this time in Arkansas. And of course, Arkansas has the weakest, I repeat, Arkansas has the weakest gun laws in the 50 states. That will be Arkansas. And it's not surprising at all. And for those who talk about problems or Look at what's happening in Philadelphia with the crime wave, or Chicago, or any major city in America. Remember, most of those cities have gun laws, but also remember that the criminals in those cities just have to drive over to the red states and pick up their guns easily, drive back into the blue states, and commit their crimes. That is not conjecture. That is a statement of fact. Remember also that criminality in the areas where guns are prevalent in the red states is higher than in the blue states, higher than in Illinois, even as Illinois has the Chicago problem in certain neighborhoods. Because remember, Chicago is a very safe city. Remember, New York is a very safe city. Remember, Houston is a very safe city. Don't let the statistics fool you the way the red side would want to make them. The reality is, when you look at the numbers speak volumes. Anyway, before I go ahead and get started, I was going to play that criminal video the first time, but Ray from 3rd Ward is in the house. So let's go ahead and say, first of all, Jason Berner in the chat. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Hey, how are you doing? I'm doing just fine. Why am I doing fine? Because we're back live and because you are here. Brother Ray from 3rd Ward. How are you doing, my brother? Talk to me.
Hey, brother, I just want to say I always appreciate a good rant from you, and I can't say that I disagree with anything you said. And basically, the thing about it that scares me about this whole thing, I've been holding back even trying to look up the details of Project 2025, but, for everybody that knows about it, like, this stuff is serious, man. It's like Donald Trump is like the animal. He's like the cat that pulls the thread that literally unravels the fabric of what this country is trying to accomplish. That's all I'm saying. I say that because I have 2 cats and they like to tug at things. But, it's so scary just how much they want to concentrate power into his hands of all people. And I'm like, for everybody who's, independent minded or conservative or whatever, it's all good and fair for y'all. Y'all might suffer a little bit, but, when I think about it, it literally gives me nightmares of thinking, man, what if I wake up November 4th or 5th and then, Trump declares slavery on everybody? That's the type of nightmares that I have, and I just want to be able to wake up on the other end of Election Day and put all this Trump crap behind us because he's no longer a factor in our American politics. That's all I want. That's my rant.
Let me tell you first thing, Ray. First of all, I beg that you not be scared. I beg that you do what you do. You are active in several organizations where you are making positive change. You are enlightening people. You are making people be aware. Keep doing that. It will work.
Second, where I can. Yeah.
No, let me tell I want people to understand this, because what happens, the amount of rejection, let me personalize this. I do a lot of this talking, not only on the radio, not only in the blogs that I write, not only in the books that I write, not only in the TikToks that I do, not only in the Instagrams that I do, not only in the Facebooks that I do, not only in the YouTubes that I do. Why am I saying this? To say that, hey, I'm over on all these things? No, I'm saying that because all of us, Brother Ray, everybody has a sphere of influence. And you have a sphere of influence. Everybody, including family, they're going to push back sometimes. They're going to put you down sometimes because you are whether they believe it or not, you are looking out for them. Don't stop doing that. Don't stop engaging. We went to our county executive committee meeting last night, and there was a dear friend of mine. She said, Egberto, I saw your newsletter about a Democratic landslide, but I haven't read it yet. I am very nervous. Tell me a little bit about it. And what I explained to her is the following. I said, look, Project 2025, all the things that Republican politicians, not our Republican brothers and sisters, because they themselves don't realize what's going on. All our Republicans, brothers and sisters as well, they have not yet get it, but the Republican politicians have laid the path strong enough that this merits a landslide when people become aware. It is our job now to make people aware. Last weekend on MSNBC with, I don't remember her name right now, they interviewed one of the authors of Project 2025. And he may think that he did a good job, but what he did and what they were able to illustrate there is how draconian Project 2025 is, not for progressives, not for Democrats, but for all Americans. All Americans. Because it is, as you mentioned earlier, my brother, a concentration of power. It is a master control system of the executive, meaning the presidency, controlling the entire government legally. Believe it or not, it is legal. It is a choice.
If I can jump in, Egberto,
please do.
What's
Go ahead.
scariest is what he's going to do, what he wants to do with the Department of Justice. He basically wants to make it his own personal little police squad to basically wrangle up anybody he finds as his political enemy, and that's the scariest part.
Yes,
because he has the power. He literally is above the law because he runs the law.
And understand this. Understand this. Let me go a little deeper into the Justice Department issue, right? Because you're absolutely right, brother. But here's the thing. Our current president and all past presidents have the power right now to sort of do that, right? But they have elected not to. Remember, I said I've been talking about the flaws in the Constitution for a very long time. For a very long time, not me as Egberto, but a lot of people have been talking about the flaws in the Constitution. The Constitution have actually worked to some degree because nobody tested the borders of the Constitution. What Project 2025 does is it does exactly that. It says, it doesn't say, should I do this? It says, can I do this? And when you go from should I do this, meaning is this best for our country, instead of look at all the flaws in the Constitution that it has allowed me to do this, that's the difference between all past presidents and the folks who advise them from this, from what Trump is talking about instituting. If you read, I haven't read the entire document, I've read preambles, etc. But I don't think anything that they're talking about doing it illegally or unconstitutionally. They're just making the choice to do so. When they talk about changing the civil service type of rules to give the president autonomy, that's not a constitutional change. That's what the Constitution can allow. And when you have complicity in the Congress and complicity in the courts, where the courts interpret what you do as, okay, that is okay, then according to the Constitution, that is the law. Many times you have a corrupt judicial
right. That's complicit with it. And also, it also reminds me, I'm going to let you finish, Egberto, because I know you got a lot to say, but it reminded me of something, the Flint water crisis.
Yes.
You don't have to look no further than that to see what happens when you put a bunch of corporate cronies in place. Stuff doesn't get done. People get hurt. Go on.
Well, the reason why, when you talk about Flint, Michigan and the water situation, remember, it's all about money. And remember in this country, capital reigns over the humanity of most. Welcome aboard, Billy, Allison, Irwin, and welcome aboard, Alzarian Dreams.
Worships is capital, but yeah.
Right. And so you have to remember, when it comes to, whenever you ask a conservative politician or business person about policies you want to institute, the first questions that they ask is, how does that affect business? The first question somebody who is a politician or cares about people should actually ask is, how does that affect humanity? How does that make the life of our citizens better? That's the first question that should always be asked. In America, the business model, that is not the first thing that is asked. The first thing that is asked is, how does it affect business? How does it affect capital? Not realizing that the first thing should come is humanity. So, Brother Ray is right. But building on the message that I'm trying to put out there, as far as why I don't want fear, why I want folks to go out there and engage and inform and tell. Everybody has friends, and everybody has friends that are on the left, the right, the middle, and otherwise. I can say a lot on the radio, and I am going to get a large percentage of the choir here, meaning people that already agree with me. That's a vast majority of the folks that are going to be acquiescent to the things that we talk about. But there are people as well from the right that calls in, that listens, that sometimes gets upset when certain things are said, that albeit are still accepting seeds being planted. And when the particular issue that touches their family, their own humanity, when it reaches, that gives the water and the fertilizer for the germination of that seed that's been planted. And that is what you have to realize. When I talk about the Republicans have laid the pathway for a landslide in November, that's what I'm talking about. When people start to get awakened. Now, I have a caveat that I wrote at Daily Kos, and that caveat is it assumes that people that are correctly thinking don't get scared, but go out there and engage absolutely everybody, including the ones that want to spit in your face. You have to be in the face of every American right now. You have to tell the truth right now. When I hear something silly at somebody at the grocery store, I am very nice with them. Hey, ma'am, how you doing? I just want to mention, I kind of overheard this, but let me tell you what the reality is. And by the way, you can go check here, and here. I have those conversations anytime I'm able to leave my studio. That is, I go to the grocery store, I go to Starbucks, I go to any coffee shop. I hear things. You hear people saying, "Oh, Biden did XYZ." Da, da, da. I don't just listen. I said, "Ma'am, can I just say one thing? That XYZ that's occurring." So one of the things that I hope to do as my job here is to let people know they are empowered to make change, empowered for these things to happen. You are the ones that are going to bring the change in America. Nobody else. It's not going to be Biden saving us. It's not going to be the oligarchs saving us. It's not going to be anybody but us saying, to hell with being scared. This is what we're going to do. Ray, anything else before I jump to Harry?
Yeah, I just want to say, as far as my fear, let it be known, I'm out here in these streets working. That's why I don't really see as much Egberto. I'm having conversations one door at a time, using my sphere of influence, just like you said, and I look to you for inspiration every day. So I thank you for the conversation today. I appreciate what you do every day. I'm going to keep on watching, and shout out to Brother Harry. I know he got something good to say, too. And I'm going.
Right. Thank you, my brother. Absolutely. Thank you. Hey, folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Hey, some of you guys in the chat, if you're here in the United States, and I know most of you are, you can give us a call, too, 713-526-5738. I know you do all that conversation in the chat. Maybe some on air would be good as well. 713-526-5738. All lines are open and available. Would love to hear from you. Let's go to Brother Harry. Harry, I haven't spoken to you in a few days. We haven't been live in a couple of days. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, brother. And good morning to Howard and Jack. I enjoyed your interview of Dumb Donald that I asked you when we talked on Tuesday of last week. Can you play it tomorrow? And then JPFT had those technical things. And then when I listened on Wednesday morning, he's playing the Dumb Donald interview, Tim Scott. So I enjoyed him, his information and how you put all that out there, how he's trying to snow people. I also enjoyed the interview you did with the white woman who was talking about white women or white people that are struggling and having to deal with discrimination because they're not wealthy. I enjoyed that interview. I don't remember that woman's name. And then you did the one you played the Ali Velshi interview, and Ali Velshi is absolutely correct when he says we don't need to be calling each other names and we don't need to be yelling at one another. And then I love when Ali Velshi said in that interview that, look, we have a party, the MAGA party, that is with the Project 2025, which you've been talking about. And Ali Velshi just pointed it out. Look, if you vote for this Republican Party, if you vote for you get Donald Trump back in there and you vote in more conservatives, then this is, don't come and blame me when they start they're taking away my Social Security. They're going to take away my government sponsored Medicare. They're going to take away abortion. Don't blame me. I love when Ali hammered that home, and then people need to listen to they need to listen to that. I was telling my friend in Florida about that. You need to look up Ali Velshi and listen to him. Let's see, what else did I was going to say? And shout out to Ray. I love everything you say, Ray. And Egberto, I'm glad you keep encouraging Ray. When you said to Ray, don't stop doing the things you're doing to inform, enlighten people, it made me think of the Fleetwood Mac song that they used when Clinton was leaving office. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. And what we got to do, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. And we've got to vote in more progressives. And what Jack Van Diver is saying there, as he said, we got to stop the oligarchs. I'll have to take this from what Barack Obama always says: don't boo, vote. Vote your interests. That's how you're going to stop the oligarchs. You've got to get more progressive-minded people who think like El Professor Egberto Willies and think like the two Oniuses of Howard Rhodes and Jack Van Diver. You've got to have people like that in office to stop the oligarchs, to stop this Citizen United crap where it's just corporate greed and it's just, and as Artie Arnson was saying in the last half hour of her show, when she was talking to Bill Curry and the other gentleman she had on there, that she fears for her daughters because she fears for fascism. It just scares her. And what we've got to do is we got to fight that and make sure, hopefully, that the Americans will do the right thing so that all Americans can have a chance, be invested in, participate. And it's not just, as Artie Arnson said, as always say, that it's not an economy just for the rich and the 1%. That kind of economy sucks, as she said.
Not Jack. Let me tell you, Harry. Let me just tell you, when I'm hearing people speak, call in, or whatever, whether on this show or speak on our 3:00 show, I am always, anytime I hear folks say fear or scare, I'm going to tell you, and I'm serious, I get this visceral reaction, a lightning go through my body. It's like, no, folks, let's not be scared. You know who's not scared? A lot of folks who think MAGA is good. They're not fearful at all. They're just moving forward. My thing is we all have to move forward. We all have to understand that we are the ones. Right, and there are certain things that are gray area. There's neither right or wrong. Whether you want big government and small government, that's a gray area, because if you want small government, is you want a little bit of services from your government, and if you want to have people go out and do these things on their own, that's fine. That's not a wrong or right. If you want a right-sized government like I do, then you're saying you believe in a collective. You believe that together we are much more powerful than as individuals. And we vote on these issues. We vote on whether how big we want government. We vote on what we want government to do. And what most of us ask for is what we get. And for the people in the minority, we don't tell them go to hell. We have a Bill of Rights that say, but in as much as we go with what the majority wants, we want to ensure that people, everybody in the minority and the majority, have equal access to success and have inalienable rights. In other words, there's nothing the majority can take away from the minority. We have when run perfectly, we have the perfect balance that even those who lose an election, even those who lose on a policy, don't lose their rights in that process. But what we're talking about with the MAGA control, let's say with the Project 2025, is different. And we've been speaking about this for years. The reason the Republican politicians for a very long time, and everybody that's listening to me here, this is important for you to understand. They have never been trying to compromise. They have never been trying to meet you halfway. They have never been trying to do that. They have used the errors and the problems within the Constitution to create minority power. And how is that done? We've spoke about this a lot of times, but we get new listeners and new watchers every day. The way they intend to create minority rule, meaning we only have to convince a few people in this country to vote against their own interests, plus we, the plutocracy, gets it all, is by controlling the judiciary. They talk about the three branches of government: the legislative branch, which is the Congress and Senate; the judiciary branch, which is the Supreme Court and the district courts and all these other courts; and the presidency, the executive. Okay? Now, they would have you believe that these are co-equal branches of the government. It cannot be co-equal. When the judiciary interprets the law and says whatever the law wants to be, and to remove the judiciary requires 2/3 in the Senate, 2/3 and a signature from the president. I mean, listen, I repeat, the flaw in the Constitution is being exploited by a minority right now, and they're doing it constitutionally. And the only way to abrogate that is for you, the people, to say we will have none of that. Because I tell you, if progressive policies are passed, meaning we want to ensure that we have a tax system that is fair to the mother who wants to go to work and want to afford childcare. If we go ahead and we say, well, the rich, we tax the wealthy who has taken an inordinate amount out of this country, who has gotten rich on your back, we're going to tax some of that back into our government so that we can subsidize a mother who wants to go to work and pay for her childcare, etc. What happens then? That somebody who has standing which would be businesses, would then go to, and wealthy people would go to the Supreme Court and say that is unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court can say, well, Congress has the right to effect those laws, or the Supreme Court can ultimately say, nope, that's an unconstitutional law, and the progressive law disappears. Folks don't get it too often. This is no longer a democracy. It was never one, but what we did, or what Republicans are doing with the control of the judiciary, which is can go against what the people want, makes it a minority-controlled system. Anyway, I got to play some videos. Anything else that you got to Harry before I go?
Okay, well, yeah, I also like the Tim Hayes interview that you did on Friday. And then there's two other things I'd like for you, when you get a chance, I'll also send you an email to remind you. I'd like you to interview Kandaki Owens and this congressman in Florida named Byron
Donalds.
I listened to a Stephen A. interview, and about only three things that Stephen A. asked him that I agree with. All the other stuff I don't agree with, because he's just more of he thinks that progressive ideas I started thinking about you when he talked about progressive ideas, and he was saying that it sounds good, but it makes no sense. And it does make sense. You know, it just seems to me this Byron Donald is just for the few. He's for supply side economics, and he's for deregulation. He went on about that, how the Democrats want to regulate everything. So that's why I want you to interview him and interview Kadaki Owens and challenge them like I know you can, because you understand economics very well and understand politics very well. And you can challenge them and exploit and blow up their lies and their misinformation to misinform people.
Thank you, my brother. Got to go. Okay.
I'll talk to you.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it. Anyway, folks, 713-526-5738. Since the lines are completely empty, I got a 9-minute video on Ali Velshi, Project 2025, and some other issues. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Not all journalists have the courage to do what Ali Velshi did yesterday in a monologue as he described what the Supreme Court has yet to rule on and much more. But what he did is made the case. Well, I think maybe it wasn't showing up. I think I have some technical issues there. Let me see if I cued that baby to run or not. It seems like it wasn't going through, so I need to verify a few things right here. And I think I did. And now I'll go back and play that Ali Velshi tape. Sorry about that, guys. That was completely and entirely my fault. Not all journalists have the courage to do what Ali Velshi did yesterday in a monologue as he described what the Supreme Court has yet to rule on and much more. But what he did is made the case why Donald Trump is a clear and present danger and why America must, in fact, defeat Trumpism. I want you to listen to this piece in detail. I chopped it up so that it'll fit in in a tighter time, but I don't think I missed anything. Check out this soliloquy by Ali Velshi. It could not have been done any better.
Chief Justice Roberts, in the majority opinion, wrote, quote, "The laws confirm what common sense suggests. When an individual poses a clear threat of physical violence to another, the threatening individual may be disarmed. When an individual poses a clear threat, that threatening individual may be disarmed. Does it apply to this individual?"
Those J6 warriors, they were warriors, but they were really more than anything else. They're victims of what happened. All they were doing is protesting a rigged election.
The Supreme Court, again today, said nothing about that individual. He's not trying to buy a gun. He's trying to get complete immunity for the effort to overthrow the election that culminated in the violent attack on the Capitol on January the 6th, calling the convicted attackers his warriors, victims. Those are the people who beat police officers, hunted members of Congress, threatened to hang the vice president. He's repeating the lie that the election he lost was rigged. He has not been deterred in the least. He's doubling down. Trump is saying that he will pardon these criminals, offering them immunity and possibly the opportunity to do it again. And the court said nothing on that today, even though it's been 6 months since Special Prosecutor Jack Smith asked for expedited consideration of this matter. 4 months since a federal appeals court panel unanimously ruled that Trump should be disarmed by simply making him subject to the law like everyone else in this country. In the meantime, Donald Trump has been convicted by a jury of 34 felonies related to his effort to influence the 2016 election. And still, the Supreme Court is effectively immunizing Trump by helping him run out the clock on federal prosecution. Trump today is worse than he was in 2016 or in 2020. And he and the country will be worse if he is returned to the presidency. To protect democracy, America must defeat Trumpism. If Trump is able to come back from inciting an insurrection, the message will be that lawlessness wins, criminality wins, fraud wins, sexual assault wins, overthrowing the will of the voters wins, threatening to assassinate the vice president for upholding the Constitution wins, beating police officers wins, threatening judges and prosecutors and juries wins. If Trumpism wins, the candidate who comes after Trump will be worse because they won't be pretending like some Republican senators who are cowards. but know exactly who Trump is.
This is now multiple rallies where people are assaulted and beat up, where a guy gets sucker punched by one of the Trump supporters. And then instead of condemning it, Trump is silent. When the guy is released from jail, he says the next time maybe we should kill the protester. Again, there's silence. Then he goes on stage and just makes things up. He keeps telling the story about a general who dipped bullets into pig blood and shot a bunch of Muslim prisoners. Not only is it outrageous, it's a lie. He has said to people, basically, beat up the protesters and beat up the hecklers and I'll pay your legal bills. There are people out there that are not completely in control of themselves. And they hear something like this from a leader. You don't know what they're going to do next. This notion that a president can just say anything they want, or even a presidential candidate can say anything they want, whatever comes to mind, it's just not true, and it's reckless and it's dangerous.
You're not going to hear that anymore, as Marco Rubio is on the short list to be a vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump. Instead of Trump paying those protesters legal bills, his supporters pay his legal bills now. His lies and attacks have led to death threats. In Judge Cannon's courtroom, every Trump objection is infinitely more important than voters learning through a criminal trial whether the former president stole classified documents, left them fully accessible to bad actors at his golf club, and what lengths he went to stop the government from getting those documents back. You cannot have a successful democracy when the governing vision of one of the two parties is Trumpism.
A lot of Republican politicians have surrendered to it. Of course, many of the same politicians who now publicly embrace Trump privately dread him. They know what a disaster he's been and will continue to be for our party. They're just too afraid to say it out loud. I feel no need to kiss the ring. I have no fear of Trump's retribution.
That was a great speech. She spoke truth to power. And you know what happened next? She said she's voting for Trump. But did you hear those cheers? That was Republican voters cheering the words, I have no fear of Trump. Trump lost 16% of the vote in the Republican primary in Pennsylvania, 18% of the vote in the Republican primary in Arizona, 20% of the vote in the Republican primary in Wisconsin. All of those elections, all of those primaries were held after Nikki Haley dropped out. So even when there isn't somebody running against him, he's losing those numbers. Those voters weren't voting for Haley. They were voting for a better, saner party. Republicanism without Trumpism. Voting for what I like to call Myrna. Make Republicans normal again. I don't know if the Republican Party will become better if Trump loses, but I know our democracy will absolutely be worse if he wins. People in a functioning, healthy democracy are not forced to wait on tenterhooks, wondering, today, will democracy hold? Or will the Supreme Court give the guy who lost by 7 million votes a free pass for his coup? As former Attorney General Eric Holder put it, there is no cavalry coming. You are it. It's up to the voters to show that Trumpism is a loser and democracy will ultimately win. And honestly, is it really so hard to stand up to this?
So there's a shark 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards or here. Do I get electrocuted? If the boat is sinking, water goes over the battery, the boat is sinking. Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? The late, great Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner. Joe Biden's granting mass thing.
This is what we need journalism to do over and over again. Spill the truth, spill the context, and then hope. Well, not hope. Urge that the American people react as they should, see things as they should, see things the way they really are. That is what Ali Velshi did here, both with the narrative and the examples governing the narrative. Look, America, the truth of the matter is this. Donald Trump is a convicted felon, but while he is officially a convicted felon on the case in New York, a state case, the reality is Donald Trump is a felon even before he was legally called a felon, based on all that he's done, the misogyny, based on the theft of a 501c3, based on the selling of a university that really wasn't a university, based on stiffing people. There are so many illegalities this guy did, selling the White House right now, selling the White House to billionaires. Is that what you really want to hire as the president? The guy who actually said, inject bleach or put bleach in your orifices to solve the problem that he made very worse in a pandemic. I think it's high time for these pollsters or these polls to start reflecting some reality here. America cannot be this deceived. America cannot be this gullible. That is one of the reasons I contend that there will be a fever break that leads to a landslide. You can fool people for so long. People's prejudices can work for so long. People's carnality can work for so long. But when they realize that something ultimately becomes an existential threat, at that point, I think the change occurs. And I think that point occurs definitely before November, when people will start making the right choice. Ali Velshi is correctly right. America must defeat Trumpism, because Trumpism is nothing more than pure, unadulterated evil. And I would repeat that ad nauseum. Let's jump to Brother Donald and then Brian. And Harry, I don't know if we're going to get to you, but we're going to try our best. Let's go to Donald. Come on in, Donald. My brother, talk to me.
Okay. Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my sir. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm a cat man too, for a reason, but I got a barnyard cat.
Let me hear it.
She patrols my property, and she takes care of the tree rats, which would be a squirrel, the birds, the snake, everything else, and she'll bring them from the barn or wherever she catches them after she kills them and drop them by the door because my wife don't like it. But that is my cat. There's a difference in cats. There's a difference in dogs. Some people are from the country and some people are from the city. But that's just the way it is. We have our need for animals, but they're not entertainment. It's just like people. If you want to be a grasshopper, grasshoppers are always going to want free stuff. They're always going to want to be intellectual, so they cannot do that 4-letter word, work, physical labor. And until we get it through people's thick heads that everybody's got to pull their weight or they don't eat, somebody's going to have to pay for all this beautiful ideas. And the people that are paying for it are getting tired of it. So
okay, Donald, let me just say one thing. Donald, I know that I don't interrupt. I don't interrupt, but I have 4 people waiting, and I got to get to everybody 30 seconds. But here's the deal, Donald. The myth is that most people don't work or most people don't want to work. That is a facade that you're seeing. And let's talk about that. Bring that up for me early tomorrow, because I want Americans to understand we are the hardest working people in this world. Americans are. Thank you, brother. Let's jump to Brian. Brian, you got about 45 seconds. Sorry about that, but time ate us up. Brian, come on in.
Yeah. Wednesday of last week, you had an interview on a man about the Irishman being thrown in a steel pit while making the Titanic.
Yes.
I honestly cannot believe that you had that man on. That story
That's not a man. That's a woman. That's a woman.
No. The woman was talking about the healthcare in Thailand. The man said that 1,000 people were thrown in the vat to make steel for the Titanic. You realize
no, that's
those
not.
were like 50 pounds?
No, that's not what she said. But
that's not what she said. I'm talking about him first.
No, I'm telling you, it wasn't a man, sir. It was a woman. I know the person who came on from Ireland. That was a woman.
No, okay, whatever it is. Those vats, they're upwards of 5,000 degrees. When you throw 2 pounds of water in a 10,000-pound vat of molten steel, it explodes. It kills everyone around.
Right.
The product cost about $20,000 per kettle. The kettle is destroyed. The kettle costs about $100,000.
Hey, Brian, this conversation, Brian, this conversation is too long, and I got to get to Moses. Thank you. Let's talk tomorrow. You called too late. Let's talk tomorrow. Let's go to Moses. Moses, I can only give you 30 seconds.
Okay. Good morning. Okay.
Good morning.
Americans, you have eyes to see. You have ears to hear. You've seen and you have heard the atrocities of Donald Trump and his multitude. January 6th is the glaring before your face. Is this the man you wish to lead a Christian nation before a God whom you say you believe in? Amen. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so kindly for that, Moses. And Harry, you really only have 25 seconds. Come on in, Harry.
Yeah, one thing I didn't mention earlier is Donald Trump said over the weekend that if he has the votes, if he gets back in as president, he would not have a sign a national abortion ban. I don't believe him because I think he's worried about demographic change. He's worried about the white population losing their population dominance in this country. I was wondering what your feelings are on that.
Nobody this stuff about white people becoming a minority in our lifetime or the distant future is false. What they don't tell you a lot of times is a large percentage of Latinos that are populating this country, whether they come from Venezuela, Colombia, etc., they're actually white. A lot of those people that are migrating here are white. So this fear, it's all of this is a hate fomenting thing. Not that, look, it doesn't matter if this is a white country, a brown country, a mix. None of that really matters. Humans are humans. But those who are color coded, the idea that this is going to be less than a white country in 20 or 30 years is a myth. I know that's what the demographers are saying right now, but it's a myth because the people that are coming, whether they're coming from Europe, a lot of the folks that are coming here, it's not a monolithic bunch of brown and black people coming here. There's a very large percentage of white people coming here from Latin America, from South America, from parts of North Africa, etc. So it's a myth that's just there to create fear. And it's there to try to make white people fearful. But I got to go, Harry. Thank you so kindly for your call. I got to jump to brother. Thank you, brother. Let's go to the studio to see if my brother has any closing statements. Jack?
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
There you go. Anyway, folks, we got to get out of here. I want to thank all of you for listening. I want to thank you for all your ears, your eyes, those of you that are watching on the video. But I want to tell you something. I don't want anybody to be fearful. What I want people to do is go out there and activate themselves. Find a group to work with or work alone. When you are in the grocery store, you are a one-person army. When you hear people saying silly things, respectfully talk to them. Show them respect and steer them to reality. Steer them to the truth. Sharkula Hairstylist, welcome to the chat as well. Sorry, I didn't mention you, as well as Eric Hayes. Anyway, folks, we got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books